All right, welcome. I'm here with one of my best friends in the world, Bryson Breakey, the bride dog himself, right here in his very real living room. This is his normal, normal living room. Just for one person. He just sits there by himself and chills. Yeah. Well, first of all, Bryson, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Just living out this quarantine dream, man. I remember when all this stuff first started happening and hearing about people like self-quarantining when they felt like they got sick. And I was like, man, that's crazy. I can't imagine being like quarantined. And then like 3 days later, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, all of you are doing this. So just living my best life in my fake living room, man.
Sick. Yeah, dude, it's crazy. We kind of started a little early. I don't really know why, but I guess because we just didn't really have anything to do anyway. So we were like, so we've been going on, I think like 4 weeks now, and it's getting pretty real. So
yeah, we started on the earlier side as well. Rachel, as you know, is pregnant, and so her immune system is less than normal, and so we just figured let's be safe. So we've been, just chilling at home. Every now and again, we'll make a crazy run to the Chick-fil-A drive-thru or something.
Yeah, that's what we were doing. Just drive-thrus.
Or adventure. Sometimes it's like, you don't even want to, like, we don't eat, fast food a ton, but it's like, I want to go do something. So, the line at McDonald's doesn't sound so bad,
For sure. We drove out. Yeah, we just went on like a 2-hour drive last weekend. So I'm sure we'll do that again this weekend. Well, anyway, okay. Well, as I know, you are a connoisseur of the musical arts. Play guitar, write music, among other things. A thespian as well. For the world, you have been in over 30 musicals.
It's true. Only like 2 plays, but over 30 musicals.
30 musicals. But let's start at the very beginning. So we got Little Bride Dog. Where were you born, raised? What was your childhood like? And what kind of got you into stuff?
I was born in a small town called Paulsbo in the state of Washington. It's about an hour and a half from Seattle. So on that side of the state. And pretty much been doing music and artsy stuff as long as I can remember. I cut my, cut my cloth teeth. I started in the dance industry. About the age of 3, I did Norwegian folk dancing. And so that was the beginning of my artistic expression to the world. And then, once I got kind of the end of elementary and middle school and stuff, I really got into music, like writing. I'd played drums since I could walk. And then, just said, hey, I might be able to give this a try. I listened to a lot of Reliant K, I remember back then. And so their songs only had like 3 chords. So I figured if I could learn 3 chords, then I could write some music. And I wrote my first song. It was a really creepy love song to a girl I liked in 8th grade.
And your brother played music, right? Like your older brother?
Yeah, he played music. And we were in a band actually when I was in middle school called Somebody Stop Melvin.
Somebody Stop Melvin, man. Legendary band.
That's actually probably why you have a lot of viewers right now as fans of Somebody Stop Melvin. So SSM Nation, what's up?
For sure.
Join it. So we were in Somebody Stop Melvin. I was playing drums. My brother was yelling. And it was, so we were awesome. Then I wrote that song. I got a little more like sensitive, kind of more into the emo thing. And I remember being really mad that I recorded it on GarageBand. And I was so mad that she wouldn't put it as her MySpace song. I was like, but I made this for you. And listening back, I can realize why she wouldn't, because it was really creepy. But I remember being really sad about that.
So did the playing in bands come first, or did the musical kind of theater stuff come first?
I did theater first. Yeah, I did theater all through elementary and all through middle school and high school. And then I stopped. I finished high school and I was like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life, so I'm out.
When did you realize that sports were not your path?
Yeah, I realized that pretty early on. I did have a moment of greatness in the fifth grade when I was in the fifth grade. I played baseball, and they had me in right field, specifically because in fifth grade, no one can ever hit to right field. They're all right-handed, so it always goes to left field.
Nice.
But Ichiro, and I was from Washington, Ichiro from the Mariners played right field, so I thought it was awesome. I didn't catch a single ball the entire game, or the entire season. The last game, when we're in playoffs, when it really counted, I caught the ball that kept the other team from winning, and I was a hero.
There you go.
So coming from the house, the sports was not the way to go for me.
You did wrestle though.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There's maybe if you have, I don't know if you're gonna have thumbnails for these. I'll send you the picture you can use for the thumbnail.
Sure. Of the wrestling.
Of the wrestling. Yeah.
Okay, so middle school, you're playing in garage bands, really, with your brother.
Mm-hmm.
And then when did you kind of start taking it? I mean, you kind of mentioned it, but when did you start kind of taking it a little bit more seriously as far as like playing music and writing music? Like you already wrote that first song.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, when was kind of the point where you were like, okay, this is cool. I want to do this and maybe be serious about it.
Yeah, so I wrote that song, and I was playing in some other bands too. I was playing rhythm guitar in this band. I remember the main guy was writing all the stuff, and I had this other one that I came up with and said, hey, what do you think about these couple songs? And they really, really liked them, and that's kind of when it clicked. I was like, maybe I'm actually okay at this, and so kept on perfecting it and stuff. And then as I got into high school, I thought I was awesome and started a couple bands that showed off how awesome I was. And so for a while I was into like folky music and wrote a lot of. I started a folk band, and that kind of dissipated, and then I got into some really indie stuff and started an indie band. So all of my Pelican Symphony fans from back in 360, glad you're watching this as well.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so just continued the craft of writing and growing, and you realize it's just a game of reps, right? Anything is. You do it enough times to realize this works, this doesn't work, this I thought it was going to be cool but it's not, and this I didn't think it was going to be cool but it's awesome. And so the more I just grinded at it, the more proficient I became, I guess, with music and writing and all that stuff.
So if I were to talk to Little Bry Dog around that time, what would be the three kind of top influences musically?
The Killers, obviously, is day one. They are my ride or die. In my eyes, they can do no wrong.
Okay.
And so the Killers is up there. Depending on the era, like I was saying, in middle school, I listened to a lot of Reliant K. I was into the whole scene of like Cute Is What We Aim For, and like the Almost, all like I was kind of that for a little while. But the Killers have been from day one. In high school, I was really into Sufjan Stevens. So he was a big influence. And then third influence was maybe like M. Ward, or kind of in that, maybe My Morning Jacket, one of those kind of folky indie hipster things.
Mellow stuff and
real mellow, real chill.
Sick. So now you're through high school, and then you started playing bass with different people, right? You were kind of playing with some different bands and artists.
Yeah. So when I got out of high school, I sort of, in the musical community I was in, I wasn't the greatest guitar player of all of us. I was good, or I was decent, but I wasn't the best. I was decent at drums, but I wasn't the best. I was good at piano, but I wasn't the best. But no one really wanted to play bass, it seemed like. And so I was like, hey, maybe I'll just get really good at this. And so after a little while, I I liked it. I was really into it, and just had some opportunities to play in a couple groups, gig around, and that actually ended up, I was playing a festival in Seattle, which is where I met some people who invited me and said, hey, you should think about moving down to Nashville, which is where our saga began. But yeah, 20 years old, and I don't know if it was ambition or lack of ambition that kind of got me going, but I didn't know what else I was going to do up there. I just knew I wanted to do music and, play or write or anything like that. I just wanted to be involved in music, and that wasn't going to happen in Paulsville, Washington, the town of 8,000 people. It wasn't going to happen there, and so sold all my stuff, came on down with a duffel bag and a couple guitars.
And here we go. This is where we met. Literally the first day you got to town.
Well, not the first minute, because so I guess if we're getting into this, are we here? Are we in Nashville now?
We're getting in. We're about to dive into Nashville.
So I decided I was going to move to Nashville. It was September. I had to move back to kind of settle some stuff up, transition some stuff at my job and stuff like that. So I moved down in January. Like I said, sold all my stuff, flew down, and I didn't know anybody. And so I found the place I was going to live on Craigslist. And they said, all right, dude, the only person who has off that day is going to pick you up from the airport. We'll get you back, and you can figure it out from there. Welcome to Nashville. So the dude is like 2 hours late to pick me up. I land there, and I'm like, geez, man, welcome to Nashville, right? And so here we go, 2 hours later, this rinky-dink Saturn view comes up, and I'm like, oh, please, God, let that not be the car. But no, the door opens, and there's this dude with dreads saying, come on, man, get in. And Nolan met.
That was me. I was that guy, 2 hours late. So I'm staying there. Hey, you need to pick up our new roommate from the airport. So I think it was an early flight. It must have been. And I don't wake up early. Early, it could have been 11 o'clock. Who knows?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Early 11 o'clock flight.
So I pull up, and I see you sitting on the bench with your guitars, and I knew obviously nothing about you. So I'm like, okay, this thing I see is cool. And I said, hey man, get on in. And that was how we met, and we went back to this apartment. Which what was your first impression of this apartment that we were staying at?
Well, it's one of those situations that before you see it to have an impression, you smell it. So the smell sort of gives you just a little sneak peek of what you're getting into, which by smell alone, it would be you're walking into a dumpster. Yeah, it was terrible, right? It was like, I don't know if I can imagine a worse place to live.
Yeah,
like physical abuse. Like obviously that would make it worse, but in terms of physical location, it was the worst. We were across from a graveyard.
It's true.
We had it was a 2-bedroom apartment that we had 5 guys in, 5 strangers. None of us knew each other. And the main guy, I don't think he's going to watch this, and if he does, hey, someone's got to have told you this by now. He lived in the living room and never did any of his dishes. And like it was just weird. It was a weird situation. So we couldn't be anywhere but our rooms pretty much.
Yeah.
And the best part that I think no one likes sharing, you say it, and I'll see if it's what I think it is.
Is it the sock thing?
Yes.
So the guy that owned the house kept his socks underneath your bed. So every morning he would go in there and get his socks. from under your bed.
That's accurate. Yeah, that's accurate. So
It was awesome, man. We had to keep our food like in our rooms and that was a gnarly situation. So we only lived there for like a month, and then you and I got our own
yeah.
place.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
The lines.
yeah, and you didn't drive at the time, so I was kind of driving you
Mm-hmm.
around everywhere. Or you didn't have a car. Was that it? Yeah.
Well, both.
Both, yeah. So that's how we met, and then a month goes by. We're in our own place, and we're kind of playing music and doing stuff. And then you were on tour for a little while. I went on a tour, and then kind of came back, and then we started our Sunday morning. I mean, is that right? Is that the timeline?
Well, there's a brief Fox Fluorescent.
Yes, yes.
But the 10-second story of that is we were both working at Starbucks, different stores, and one of the baristas at my store, he had a band, and he was like, "Hey, man, you have a band, right?" Or he's like, "No, I need an opener for our show. You have a band, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I have a band." And I didn't have a band. And so I came back to our apartment. It's like, "Hey, Nolan, we're starting a band." So it's us and a couple friends. And we wrote, rehearsed, and put together in like 3 weeks this band.
A whole set of original songs.
Yeah, everything fresh, everything new. And we just did one show, and that was it.
That was it. It was over. And that was what we were talking about on Luke's episode, is that was when I first really met him. He went to that show.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So Fox Fluorescent's the start of everything, man.
It really is.
Okay, so we did that, and then we went and toured, and you and I were both playing with bands separately. Mm-hmm. And then we decided to start, another friend of Eric moved in with us. Mm-hmm. And we started Sunday morning, and that started the story that is Sunday morning.
Sunday morning. Yeah, and that was just, I mean, we were in, at that point, we were 3 of us living in a 1-bedroom apartment.
That's true,
yeah. There are things that in the moment don't seem so weird, but when you're talking about them on a podcast a couple of years later, you're like, that was really weird.
Eric slept on like a mat that he would pull out from under the couch.
Yeah. Every night. It's like, I could do that for a night if we're like visiting friends that live in New York City where it's too stinking expensive to get an apartment.
That's amazing.
But not for indefinitely.
And Eric and I would stay up late every night, and you would have to get up early to go to work. Mm-hmm. And we would just be playing video games until and the house is so small that like everyone.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
But I remember there's also, because I had to work sometimes. I was working at Starbucks still, and you had to get there at 4 a.m. sometimes. And so there's a couple of times in seasons that I couldn't drive. I would make some joke that there's a DUI or something. No one knows me. I had epilepsy, and so I had seizure, so I couldn't drive. You can't drive after that. Yeah. And so I remember there was a couple of times y'all would stay up so late that I would get up to go to work and be like, "Hey man, can I get a ride to work?"
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So we started Sunday morning, and I would say you and Eric probably wrote most of the songs. I mean, I wrote a couple, but I think that was kind of where you were getting like really into songwriting. I felt like, I could be wrong, you can correct me, but it seemed like that was kind of the time when you were like really taking songwriting more seriously, and you were writing a lot of other songs too, mm-hmm. That weren't even for the band, but I felt like that was kind of when you started really getting like heavy into the craft of it, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, it's fun. That was really fun, just having kind of I mean, everyone was just so good at what they did that it was sort of, when you have a specific context you're writing for, sometimes you're limited by, you can't really have this because they can't play that, or they're not going to understand this. But I mean, everyone that was in the band just did what they did really, really well. So it was just so fun really having no limits on what we could do, and being roommates with 2 of the 3 bandmates was helpful, because you have an idea and you go, hey, what do you think about this? But yeah, so that's when I was really growing, and I was writing for a couple other people at the time, and it's I think that was kind of the season where I realized that writing was sort of where I wanted to land in the whole thing, because I liked writing different styles or different vibes or exploring different things. And if you're an artist, you can't necessarily do that, unless you're T Swift, who's a different genre every album. But I knew that probably wasn't going to be my landing point. And I know I'm not trying to be self-deprecating. But I'm an all right singer. I'm a decent guitar player. So none of that was really going to get me I'm not going to be the next, whoever. But writing, was something that I was pretty good at. And so, that's kind of when I was really trying to pump them out, really organizing a lot of rides and Skype rides and in-person rides. Nashville, there's no shortage of people you can write with. And so, but yeah, that's where things kind of took off in my writing journey, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, and that was such a fun time, that we were playing tons of shows, we all lived together. And then I got married and moved out, and Luke moved in, and you all 3 lived together, and we were just like playing music all the time, and you were writing a lot and writing really, good songs. And that was something I thought we wrote like really good songs. Like even now when I go back and look at it or listen to us, which isn't too often, but I mean, I'm just listening to us all day. But I think that was something that we were, mostly because you and Eric, Eric's a great songwriter too, but
he's an amazing songwriter.
Yeah, the stuff that you guys were like writing at the time was just really good. And that was a fun time. And we kind of talked about this on Luke's episode, but I want to get your side, because we were saying how, we were meeting with Capital. We had a manager at the time. There's a couple different people that were coming kind of in and out. And then it was like, we just kind of stopped. Like we kind of looked at each other, and it was just kind of like, I don't know if we want to do this, I don't know. It was like we never really talked about it, but it was kind of like a mutual kind of thing where we all just kind of knew where each other were at, and was just like, yeah, I don't know if this is what we want to do. And you were always pretty vocal about, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but you didn't really want to be on the road all the time. Like not that you wouldn't, but it wasn't something that you were like super gung-ho about, which is partly why I think you were focusing so much on the writing, and, you felt like that was where your spot was, like in music and all that. Yeah, I just think it was interesting that we just kind of like, we were just done. Like it was kind of overnight. I don't know what your perspective is on it, but.
Yeah, I think that it was within like a year, we all just had some major transitions in life. Like you got married one summer, then the next summer I got married. Eric was really pursuing some other stuff career-wise when he was getting really into like coffee roasting and stuff. Yeah. Luke was in college still. And so it was like, it felt like in one 12-month period, all of our lives just changed so much that there was just, like you're saying, just one day we kind of looked at each other. It's like, man, it just became so much more than bros that have all day, every day in an apartment, to do whatever they want to, man, now we're coordinating with families and jobs and stuff. It's like, man, we're grown-ups now. So I think there's kind of the 2 domains of where it works. There's like when you're a bachelor and can do whatever you want, and then once you're like kind of set in what you're doing.
Yeah.
But we're in that middle thing. And for me, you're right. I wasn't trying to be a party pooper, but I knew that I was. My end goal was not to be, a rock star road dog. I did the tour I was on was I just didn't like it. It was fun for a while playing shows and stuff. But it felt like, for me, it just felt like Groundhog Day, where you wake up and do the same thing every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm just too much of a homebody for that. And so I knew that I just wanted to write. And if it was writing for Sunday morning, and y'all went off and were rock stars, or writing for other people or whatever, I just knew that's kind of where I wanted to land. But yeah, you're right. I mean, one day we all just kind of looked up. Like, but technically, I don't think we ever broke up.
Yeah, we're still a band. We're still, even though our shirts, people are finding them at Goodwill. We're still a band.
Is somebody shirt at Goodwill?
Yeah, Daniel Cheney sent me a photo one time of one of our shirts at a Goodwill.
You should hold on to that. Sell it in a couple of years for $10,000.
That's awesome. All right, so you were Sunday morning, and this was kind of overlapping, but you were writing, and then so what was kind of your first? I mean, you have a lot of songs that are pretty, I would say, are pretty successful songs. Like, and so kind of what was that first song where and I mean, I know you and I know your personality, and you might not look at it that way, but as far as in the music industry, the tiers, like you're a part of a tier where you have songs that are well known, literally sung all over the world because of the type of stuff you do, and do well commercially in some parts of the world. So what was kind of the first song where you were realizing like, oh, this is bigger than anything I had done before, I guess, besides how big we were, because we were massive. So
yeah, absolutely. That's a good question. Yeah, because I think for me, where I really felt like I landed, there's a lot of years of trying this and trying that, but starting to write worship music was, I feel like, as a Christian, there are a lot of really amazing, creative, artistic expressions within faith, but there's also a lot of stuff that's kind of behind. And so I felt like I had something to contribute to the conversation of what Christian music could look like. And so after having a couple opportunities to write here, to work on a project there, I think that it was the first song that I wrote actually with Every Nation Music, which is the movement that we're a part of as family of churches, that we wrote All I'm After. And I remember hearing that sung at one of the conferences. And up until then, I just heard songs that I wrote, at a concert or, at a club or whatever show. And people aren't really singing along because if there's vibing, maybe they know it. But seeing people connect with a song that I helped write, that was a moment. It was like, oh my gosh, this is bigger than me. I'm a part of something significant right now. It's not just little Bride Dog from Paulsville, Washington, getting at his $200 Costco guitar. And
how many streams does All I'm After have? Do you know?
I don't know. Well, that's the thing. What's crazy to me is that song's been re-recorded.
Yeah.
I think like 6 times.
Yeah, there's like 6 versions of it.
Yeah, in Spanish,
Yeah, that's a trip. How is it hearing songs that you wrote translated into other languages?
I mean, they could have changed all the words and I wouldn't know.
True.
Maybe they like hated the bridge and they rewrote half of this and rewrote, but I'm just like, this is amazing.
Yeah. If there was any language that you could have one of your songs translated to, what would it be?
I would love to hear someone sing something that I've written in like Russian or something.
That's a good
all
one.
my stuff is generally pretty like pentatonic and like kind of sleepy and peaceful. And I feel like Russian or German is a pretty unpeaceful language. So maybe one of those.
That's
Polish?
Polish?
Mandarin? I don't know.
Mandarin, there might already be a version of one of yours in Mandarin.
Yeah. I love their oranges.
Yeah, they're oranges. So you've been, I mean, you write mostly with Every Nation Music now.
Mhm.
Is there anything else that you've kind of been working on, or other people you've been writing with, or?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think recently it's pretty much been EN music. But one of my really good friends just started putting stuff out again, Mikey Moore.
Mhm.
And so he's on staff at a church up in Washington and does awesome stuff with their band, The Responding. But he's starting to put out stuff again. And so we've been working on some stuff for that. Then there's a couple artists locally that are kind of working on stuff that are, it's either in the process or just came out. And yeah, but I think for me, one of the biggest thing, because when I got to Nashville and I was just writing, I was so convinced that like writing is just what I want to do. I want to write. This got to be my job. This got to be, this is my future. And it wasn't until there was actually a publishing deal on the table of like, hey, here's, we want you to write for us, that it kind of hit me in the face of like, wow, this actually could happen.
Mhm.
And that's for me. I remember calling a couple people before I signed anything. I was just like, hey, is this a good idea? Like, is this something I should do? I remember, I think advice that changed my life forever was when a good friend of kind of our community, Malcolm, the first thing he told me, he knew me pretty well and just said, don't do it. You don't want to do this.
Mm.
Uh, which sounded so different from whatever I had thought that I wanted. And I was like, well, why? And he's like, do you like your job? Yeah, I love my job. My job's awesome. He's like, can you write pretty much whenever you want? Yeah, I can pretty much write whenever I want. He's like, so doing what you want to do. Like,
Yeah.
I thought that to do music full time, it had to be your full time job. But he pretty much showed me, and would just open my eyes of like, if you find a job that you like and you love and you feel like, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you can do music as well, like you are doing what you want to do, except for you're not depending on the next show for your family to eat, or you're not depending on the next song that you write for your family to eat. And so since then, that was a couple of years ago, it just put songwriting in such a different place for me, rather than I just got to pump them out, to like, man, this is something I love doing. It's something that I love doing with my friends. It's pretty much, some people go out and play golf. Some people can hang out and write some songs, and maybe it's cool, maybe it's not. And so that's kind of changed the game for me the last couple of years. So I'm working on some stuff here and there, but it's just been fun to make it not be the thing, but put it in just a different place.
Yeah, that's cool. So do you miss playing shows at all, like playing live at all? Because you don't really do that anymore.
I don't do it very much anymore.
Let me ask you this: Do you miss this photo right here?
I miss that very much. Yeah, I mean, there's such, but I think that, I mean, with that kind of perspective shift I was just talking about, what I loved about that time is not necessarily that I was doing it, but I was doing it with my friends.
Yeah.
I was doing it with, I don't think it would be that fun for me to take some gig with jerks that I hate, like to go play shows. I don't think I'd enjoy that at all.
Mm-hmm.
But being on the road with you guys, because it was the bro squad,
There you are, man, right there.
just sniffing pits, bro. That's like, if your band can't pull off like an onstage cuddle like that, then you're not there yet. You got to grow.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so I think I do miss playing with my friends, but I don't think that it would be super fun for me to go join some randos on
Yeah.
the road.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? You still play sometimes with Willix and some other people, and
Yeah, I mean, I still play with bands, so I mean, I definitely miss playing with you guys, like for sure. I'm That's why I'm trying to get us to play again. Well, now no one can leave their house, so it wouldn't really do much. But
I'll tell
uh,
you, if this video gets 100,000 streams, it
well,
will come back.
we'll do a reunion show. No, of course. I mean, I miss it. I love the show part.
You know,
Yeah,
y'all set time and place, and I'm there.
yeah, for sure. I miss the shows for yeah. I mean, but I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I mean, I got 2 kids and want to spend time with them, and I don't know. I think everything I went the right way, kind of similar to what you were saying. So it's not like I regret stepping out of music full time, but there's parts of it I miss.
Mm-hmm.
But then, so I mean, that's all the music stuff. But then also, I mean, and this is kind of more recently, but you got into like graphic design and doing design stuff and all that. So I mean, what got you into that, and what are what's kind of going on now with that kind of stuff, that world, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I started doing graphic design now like 3 years ago, I think. And it was all, I mean, I was just telling you before we started, like, the reason I learned graphic design at first is because for my job, there's so many things we needed designed that I just would outsource everything. And I knew what I wanted to see, but I didn't know how to make it. And so I was probably so annoying for designers to work with because I was like, I don't need you to be creative. I need you to make this.
Yeah.
Like, don't get wild. Like, this, I know what I want. This is what I want. Do it. Which is like, now as a designer, so it'd be so annoying for someone to tell me that. But I just didn't know how to do it. And so one day I just figured it can't be that hard. So I got on YouTube and just watched hours and hours and hours and hours of tutorials on Photoshop and Illustrator and InDesign, and yeah, then realized that I was pretty good at it and that there was ways to turn that into a pretty legitimate side hustle. And so I started doing graphic design for a while, and then we've done some projects together, which has been super cool. Because I was doing design and kind of really honing in on like logos and branding and stuff, but I'm not a photographer, I'm not a video guy, and so so we've gotten to work on some stuff together. But graphic design it's just been cool for me to explore this whole other domain of creativity, like not just the like sonic creativity with songwriting, but like the visual end of things. And then now that everything is online while we're in quarantine, everything for our church is online, and so I've kind of been learning video stuff. I'm a complete amateur at it, but my wife's a photographer, so she has a really nice camera, and so I've been bootstrapping the video game the last couple of weeks. But yeah, I think for that stuff, I wouldn't call myself necessarily like a master of any of it, but it is cool to kind of have a creative break from songwriting, but still be able to be creative in a different way, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably the same for you because you do everything, man. Like, you do music, you do spoken word, you do photography, videography, web design, graphic design. Am I missing anything? Accordion?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I just get ideas and then it's like I got to do them. So, or at least I got to try them. Most of the time, I do ideas and then I'm over it. Like, but because of that kind of thing, I know how to do a lot of things. So yeah. So I need to know when theater's coming back for you and you're going back in full musicals.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one.
When's that creative outlet coming back?
I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one. That hasn't really circled around. I think I'm gonna have to go back to Norwegian folk dancing before I get to theater.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that needs to come back for sure. Well, here, before we kind of shut it down, I'm doing this thing where my two favorite stories. So my two favorite Bryson stories.
Yes, good.
Got a couple. One of them is
I know what one is.
one of them is a classic story of when Bryson bought his first car. or I don't know. I don't know if this is your first car, but it's your car you bought in Nashville.
Yeah.
So we drive out. It's a Craigslist thing. We drive out to the middle of nowhere, right?
Mhm.
Um, uh, we meet up with a older Egyptian fellow. He shows us the car. We couldn't really understand much what he was saying. He had a thick accent, but he was nice. We talked to him. He asked if we wanted to test drive it, so we get in. I'm in the back seat. Bryce is driving, and every time you would turn, the car would just shake. So I'm thinking, oh, there's no way he's gonna buy this car, and it was like $1,000, right? How much was this?
No, yeah, it's $1,000.
so so we pull back into the parking lot. Which, dude, I drove by that Kroger the other day
That's
because I live out there now, and I was like, "That's the spot," which was hilarious because at the time I had no idea where that was.
mm-hmm.
But so we pulled back in the spot, and you turned, and you're like, "All right, I think I'll take it." So like, I'm like, "Okay, whatever." So you get this car. We get it home. I think we went and picked it up a different day, but you get it home, and then about a month later, I get a call, and you're like, "Hey, man, can you pick me up?" I'm like, I guess. Why? What happened? And you're like, "Oh, it's just my car." And I'm like, "Oh, did you run out of gas? Did it break down? Did it?" And then you're like, "Man, no, my wheel fell off."
And for anyone who is about to just go 10 seconds back, it was not the wheel well, it was not the tire, it was not the hubcap, not my sweet spinners, no, it's the wheel. The wheel fell off.
The
Yeah.
whole entity that is all of the above fell off. Oh, dude, that was just amazing. And then that car sat in our apartment complex with flat tires for months until they threatened to fine you or something to get it out of there, right?
Well, they said they put a sign on it that said, "We're going to tow this in 4 days." And I'd been meaning to get it towed, like to the junkyard. And so I called the office. I was like, "Hey, if you're going to tow it anyway, would you mind doing it?" Like, "No, we're going to like, it doesn't work like that."
But then the best part is his wife, who was his girlfriend at the time, is visiting with his future mother-in-law.
Yeah.
We're walking by the car, and she says something like, "Man, I can't believe someone is just leaving their car out here like this." And Bryson just went with it. "Oh yeah, I know." Amazing.
Just kept on walking past.
Yeah. So that's one, and then another one is like we were talking about earlier. It's late. Eric and I are playing a skate video game, and Bryson comes and says, he's sitting there, and he says, "Hey, did I ever tell you guys about the time I skateboarded?" Singular. Just the one time he skateboarded. And then he began to tell us the tale of Speed Wobble Hill. And you basically, right, the neighbor kids came and got you and asked if you skateboarded. And you said, "Yeah, I skateboarded just to be cool," right?
I told the Starbucks barista that asked if I had a band.
Yeah. So you got on this board and you started to see them kind of carve down the hill. And you're like, "Man, I wonder why they're carving. I'm just going to go straight down." And then you got speed wobbles and got knocked unconscious, right? That's the story.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Everyone was, carving down, and I was like, why would they do that? Like, it would be easier to balance if you just go straight. Because I was a beginner skater. I think, I'm learning in this conversation I think that that's probably maybe my greatest asset and greatest liability is the idea of I could probably do that.
Amazing.
They come say, hey, can you skateboard? I could probably do that. But then, the graphic designer's like, I could probably do that. And that turned out okay. And then it was, I could probably buy this car. And then that was terrible. And I could probably write a song. Yeah, it would turn out okay, So
Amazing.
I would say that is probably perfectly medium advice. It'll go probably well for you sometimes, not well for you other times.
There you go.
General idea. If I could probably do that.
It's awesome, dude. Awesome. All right, man. Well, I'm stoked. I mean, we've talked about this all the time, but it's crazy to see, we both moved to Nashville 7 years ago, right? At the time that this is being recorded, and to see, the music stuff and you doing exactly what you wanted to do at the time is just pretty awesome.
Likewise, man, you're out there crushing it in every domain. I'm doing music and a little graphic design. You're doing stinking everything.
Yeah.
Building apps.
Like I said, I just get into ideas. Remember when I was going to get into puppetry?
I do. Whatever happened to that? Do you ever get a puppet?
No, I thought Grace was going to buy me one for Christmas, but it didn't come through.
Next time, man.
I've been practicing.
Yeah. That's the next thing, man. That'll be the next thing.
Next thing. Well, man, I can just say keep on making stuff,
Always.